Welcome to Smart PCB, your trusted PCB partner. Today we'll be introducing some handy tips for cross-probing between schematics and PCBs in KiCad. Cross-probing between schematic and PCB component networks is frequently used during design, review, and debugging processes. In this video, we'll cover how to enable cross-probing and share some related tips. Here, I've already set up KiCad in split screen mode, with each half of the screen displaying one view, which makes it very convenient to check. If you have dual monitors, it's even more convenient. You can display each view on a separate screen for a larger display. Cross-probing for components is enabled by default, meaning you can click on any component symbol in the schematic, and that symbol will be highlighted and focused in the PCB view. Let's take a look. For example, if I select U1, see U1 will be highlighted. Then if I click on LED1, LED1 will also be highlighted. And if I click on the PCB, it will also highlight the corresponding part in the schematic. Alright, when I select U1 in the PCB, the U1 in the schematic will also be highlighted and brought into focus. The schematic and PCB are mutually linked. You can also select individual pins. For example, if I were to select the specific pin 9 of the LED component, then this particular pin 9 here would be clearly highlighted and subsequently brought into sharp focus within the interface. It also works the other way around. For instance, if I select pin 13 of U1, pin 13 of U1 will be highlighted. This makes it very convenient for us to check whether the network connections of each pin are correct. You can also select components as a group. For example, if certain components belong to the same group and you want to place them together during layout, you can select them like this in the schematic, and those components will be highlighted and brought together for display. Since I have already finished the layout, the advantage isn't very obvious here. If you haven't done the layout yet, there will be a bunch of components here. If certain components should be placed together, you can select them in the schematic, and once they're highlighted and selected at the same time, you can drag them together and place them close to each other. This is also very convenient. The display effect of cross-probing components can be set in the preferences. Let's take a look. Schematic settings preferences. In the preferences, both the schematic and PCB editors have their own separate settings. Let's look at the schematic settings first. So we need to look at the display settings for the schematic. In the display settings, there's a cross-probing option here, and below it are 4 items that are all selected by default. If you find that your cross-probing isn't working, you might want to check if these options are unchecked. The first option means highlight symbol when package is selected, which is when you select a components package, the corresponding symbol on the schematic will be highlighted. Then it will also focus the cross-probed object for display. Just like before, when I select any component, it will be highlighted and focused in the other window as well. The third option, zoom to fit cross-probed object, basically means to focus and zoom in or out so that the object is displayed at an appropriate size within the window. The fourth option is to highlight the cross-probed net. We'll test the net highlighting in a moment. Next, let's look at the display settings in PCB editing. Here there's also a cross-probing option which is quite similar to the one in the schematic. It highlights the selected item and focuses the cross-probed object for display. There's also the zoom to fit the cross-probed object and highlight the cross-probed net. So these settings correspond to each other. If you don't select one side, you'll get an error in that direction. If you notice this situation, just come here and make sure all the options are checked. The last one, Auto Detect 3D View, doesn't really have much impact. You can just click it manually each time. Enabling Auto Detect might affect performance. There's also a little trick. If we want to select a symbol in the schematic but need to edit the corresponding footprint properties in the editor, how should we do that? The default shortcut key is E, which can only open the dialog box for the currently focused item. If you've clicked on a schematic symbol, how can you switch the focus to the footprint? Actually, in Preferences, under the General tab, there's an option for this. It's right here. This option, when switching between schematic and PCB editing, the focus follows the mouse. What does that mean? Let's first see what happens when this option is not selected. I'll leave it unchecked for now. For example, let's look at this U1. Even though it's selected here, if I press E in the schematic, it opens the schematic component's properties. But if I meticulously press the E key over here, absolutely nothing will open. I must first carefully click on this particular window, and then, and only then, precisely press the E key. Only then will the primary focus smoothly switch over, and the comprehensive footprints properties dialog box will then fully and completely open. Now let's proceed to carefully select the desired option. Let's see what happens after selecting it. Or let's switch to another component, LED 1. Now, if I open it here, it directly shows the component's properties. Over here, without clicking, if I just press E, the footprint properties window will pop up. This is very convenient because I only need to move the mouse back and forth without clicking, and I can open its properties just by pressing E. There's also the very useful feature of net cross-probing, which I previously mentioned earlier during the initial setup process. Let's take a closer look and observe this in action. If I carefully select a specific net directly, for example the crucial GND net, absolutely nothing immediately happens. I first need to explicitly click here to properly highlight the entire net, and then proceed to select it once again. At this precise point, the entire comprehensive net will be clearly highlighted for easy visibility. We can try it with another net. Let's switch to Kobe. As you can see, Kobe will be highlighted, but you need to click it, unlike with components, where you can just click directly. Alright, that's all for today's content. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel for more videos. Thank you everyone.